Good morning. It is Easter Sunday, so we are having some much needed time off and getting some work done, more importantly on the van. So you might be able to see behind me that what I've done is put in the sound deadening. So last night that's what I did. Now we are moving on to insulating the walls of the van. So what I've gone for is some of this Dial recycled plastic bottle insulation. It's something like £22 a roll. I've only bought two, but I think I'll probably need a few more. But obviously B&Q is shut today because it's Easter Sunday, so we'll just do with what we've got. And then I've got some of this Volden contact adhesive. I know that people say about using a high temperature contact adhesive. I couldn't really see any available to me, so I just went for this stuff because it's an all-purpose. It says on the back that it goes for high temperature, so yeah, it's not high contact specific, but I think it will do the job. And I've seen other people use something similar, so that'll be what we're doing. So yeah, I'm going to break off some strips of this insulation, contact adhesive on the walls and stick it in. And yeah. Windy day, but today it is all about these bad boys. This day was super windy and I really needed to concentrate on this part of the process, so subsequently there wasn't much commentary throughout the day, so I'll give you a bit of a rundown on what went on. We first started by fitting our solar panels, and to identify where the brackets needed to go we used some leftover mastic strip which would keep the brackets from moving when we took the solar panels off. You'll also see that I drilled my first hole in the roof here for our solar wires to be run, so we'll jump into that now. Now the first thing to do today is to fit our gland and run our wires down for our hole here. So that's been treated with some red oxide last night. That's all dried up and now we've got a 20mm grommet here. So there's our hole. I think get that to sit in there like that. So we have the first of our wires, which has a little bit of red tape, so I know that that's my positive. And what you do is you loosen up the front ends of these glands, slot this along your cable, and that just goes down in through the front, and it'll come out the bottom and drop down your hole like that, and then you can, where this is on the wire now, you can tighten that up to make it tight to the wire. There you go, so there's the wires coming in through the roof there. I've just tied them up in loose wires and put them there on that side there just to keep them out of the way while we finish the rest of the work. So now that is stuck down with some CT1 as straight as possible there. I'm going to tighten up my glands and then I'm going to tidy up the edges of it a little bit and make sure it is fully sealed in, because you don't want to leak. So I then moved on to the most daunting part of the van conversion, which is cutting a hole in the roof for the fan to sit in. So I go in there with the jigsaw and start cutting on that edge, trying to make sure it's as square as possible. I tied up a plastic bag underneath just to catch any of these metal filings that come loose, because you don't want to be standing on any of those. And yeah, I was pretty relieved when this came out nicely and gave it a good file. I'll wait for the next step. Good morning. As you can see, there's now a great big hole in the roof. So yeah, I didn't film much of it yesterday because it's the sort of thing I had to pay attention for. But there's now solar panels fitted on the roof and a big hole for the fan to go. Right, so you join me here in the garage where we are cutting our frame for our fan to screw into. Now I have a Maxxfan Deluxe which will sit here. I've opted for the 355 by 355 or 14-inch square version, mainly because the fan size is exactly the same. The only difference is actually the size of this frame. And for me, with my Transit L2H2, just because of where the struts are on the roof, this is the only version that will fit. And I knew I wanted the Maxxfan, so this is what I've gone for. So this is the frame. So I'm going to create a wooden frame that goes round this unit here for those screws to drill in from the top. There you go, so we've now got a completed half-stepped frame. And you can see it's not quite the best woodwork in the world, but where the wood glue will sit, we'll bond that bit together there. So I'm now trying to put my wooden frame up on the underside here, but you'll notice that there are a few little bits here that are going to get in the way of our frame sitting flush to the frame. So I've just marked them out, and I'm going to cut those little bits out, and there's some on the back as well. So we're going to cut those out, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this in nice and snug to the framework. Not too shabby if you ask me, and that should now hopefully sit flush. So the next thing I did was start laying some mastic strip on the roof of the van, and you'll see there I'm doing a couple layers there just to make the surface of the van as even as possible, where there's kind of raised bits. So I'm laying down this mastic strip, which is essentially your kind of waterproof sealant, which will sit underneath your frame, so I'm putting that frame in there. And once I was happy with that, I started drilling out my holes and started screwing in that frame through that mastic strip, giving it a nice little tidy, cutting off any excess, and then starting to lay some CT1 sealant around that. It's really important that when you put your fan in, you make sure you put your wires in through first, so cut a little hole in the frame there for the wires to go. Make sure they were through in the right place before putting this fan in, and just getting this fan open as much as possible so that I have most room to play with when putting that in. Pull that. Yeah, just bringing this down gently, fitting it through. My dad on the other side just to make sure it's all going in tidily. And once I was happy with it, just tying up those screws there on the side and having a little play with it just to make sure it's all working properly. Right, I appreciate it's probably super windy, so the audio is not going to be great. However, it is now the 10th of April. A lot of my electrics have started arriving. The fan and the solar panels are already fitted, so essentially my job today is to kind of clear out some space, start measuring up to build my electrical cupboard, and one of the things I want to do first is see what happens when I take the bulkhead out. I've seen other people take theirs out and it seems relatively pain-free. Well, turns out it is easy to take off. That's now off, and there's a load of dust behind me to probably clean up before anything else. What I've been doing the last week, I've been ill, but my dad's helped me a great deal with starting to put the bed framing in. So what we've done is we've used some rivet nuts in the side of the van using the existing holes, and we've put some rivets in, and then we've bolted in some beams of wood into the actual side panels of the van, for which we will now construct the rest of the bed frame around. We don't want to put the bed frame in when then subsequently we have to go start working on the roof and the walls above the van, because then we'll be like climbing over all the furniture, if you know what I mean. So we haven't done that just yet, but we've kind of got it all mapped out now, so at least we know the width and the length of the bed, things like that. So that's done. What I've been doing over the last couple of days, or mainly yesterday, was I pulled through all of my wires. So I wired all of my lights round up through all my ceiling arches, down through round, and got all my wires that need to go run through the length of the van, including this twin and earth, which is here for we need to have a plug socket here at the back of the van, and that runs again with all the other wires and the wires from the fans and the solar panel all the way to the bottom left where my unit is going to go in with all my electrics in. So you can now see here exactly where all of my wires are ended up. I've put them in specific compartments here. So this whole kind of 3 gap unit, this right hand side will be where the fridge is, and this left hand side will be the cupboard, these left kind of 2. Right. So we have this nice piece of ply that I used, the original piece of ply that was in the van, as a template to get the kind of angles and stuff right. This is 5.5mm ply, and I'd seen online people had used 3mm and things like that because it's more bendable and you don't necessarily need anything thicker. This was all they had available, and to me it had the right amount of bend in it so that I could get it into the right place for my shape of the van, but it was also sturdy enough that, you know, I'll have no worries, you know, drilling things into it and keeping it kind of sturdy and in place. So I'm going to put this into place, and we've already pre-drilled all of our holes here for all of our rivets and things to go in, so that is the next thing. Rightio, so I've just been sanding down a couple of ply panels that I've cut to fit inside my unit, so the back and the side of the unit, which is what I'm going to mount a lot of my electronics on. The first of which today will be the solar isolator switch, which will go on the side there where I've got my solar cables coming through. Right, so I thought we'd do a quick update. A couple of hours have passed since I last filmed me putting in some of my electrics onto the ply walls of my unit. As you can see now, I've managed to mount the MPPT, the solar switch, a couple of the fuses and the fuse box. I realised I was missing my actual mains cutoff switch, so I've ordered that, and that will be coming tomorrow, so I'll be able to fit that and I can start wiring some of the bits up. But what I've also done is fit one of the kind of ply kind of wall panels, which goes just above the bed frame there. This kind of gap here of the exposed van is where the mattress will sit, so the mattress will sit along that kind of bit there. But yeah, painstakingly on my own, I had to hold that up, and there were already some holes where the original ply lining was screwed in, so I was like holding it up and then trying to screw with one hand and holding it with the other, so it was all a bit of a palaver. But that is up, roughly held up with some duct tape at the moment, and my thought process is tomorrow I'll be able to use that as a template to do the other side. Luckily, also the offcut of this panel happened to pretty much perfectly fit my my unit here, so the only thing I had to do was take a little bit off the end here. But yeah, this pretty much perfectly fits now, so I've got a full kind of unit here now, with the electrics all going on. We then turned our attention back to sorting out the bed frame. I was going to do a little test run in the van and wanted to sleep in it, so we wanted to get the van in order. So put in loads of support beams, got some bed slats from IKEA, and eventually came out with a nice looking bed frame. We then had to sort out our mattress, so we went to IKEA and ended up with this mid-range memory foam mattress, and we unfortunately had to cut it down to a slightly shorter size than a standard double. Time to cut it to shape. So a standard double is about 190 centimeters long, but the width of my van is only about 175, so it's about 15 centimeters shorter. But I'd seen a lot of people online cutting mattresses with just something as simple as a bread knife or a hot knife or something like that, so I thought I'd give it a go, see if it's as easy as it looks, and sure enough it was. So I went and measured up 15 centimeter gap at the end of the mattress, made sure I was pretty precise because I didn't want a gap at the end of the mattress, wanted it to fit nice and snug in the bed frame so it didn't move around. Now, lots of people ask me about having a short mattress. I am 6 foot, but laying diagonally I can lay out perfectly straight, and for the most part I like to curl up anyway, so I was happy with it. And yeah, started doing kind of scoring lines with the bread knife along the length of the mattress until we were starting to get all the way through. Now you can see that this mattress is divided into 2 separate layers, so it was a little bit tricky going through that lower layer, but once we were through, came off in a nice block, and I actually put the mattress cover back on to keep it nice and together. My dad and I then went back and chucked the mattress in the van, and it was a roaring success.